Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about my predictions for the month of December. You know, we've been having some rough times for a while here. The ending months of September, October, November have been so intense, and so much has occurred. And yes, it has all been written in the stars. Now, I want you to know from this dissertation that after this month of December, we are going into much better times. So those of you that say I'm always talking about negative things, you're going to start hearing a different story, but you've got to understand that the planetary transits that we have been dealing with in the heavens have been some of the worst for a long time. But everything is cyclic, and we are going to have a time of rest, pretty much coming to a time of some peace. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect, because you have to understand we're on planet Earth, and there is the yin and the yang, there is the negative and the positive, and these are always contrasting elements of being on this dimension, this planet. Never are we going to have a utopia on Earth, because it is built in a way for us to grow, to experience the things that we do here. And it will never be perfect. So the stars are giving us indication of when it's time to pull back, when it's time to rest, when it's time to move forward. So that's what I'm here to do, to prepare you on the planetary energies. Now remember, you as an individual have a choice. And what you choose for your life is going to be your individual experiences. What I'm displaying here is generally what is going on globally by the energies and how they affect us. But we have a choice to choose. Now, before I get into all the details for December, which there are a lot of changes coming, I want to remind everyone that I now have a Patreon page, and you can go to the link, it's down below. And with this page, I'm offering so many discounts and advantages. You can get my magazine, you can get my Shooting Stars class, you can get undivided attention from me and uncensored videos. Go to my Patreon page if this interests you. And you will even get discounts on my beautiful spiritual jewelry, that it is the Christmas season. And I have some amazing things, my own line of jewelry, spiritual jewelry by Satya Jewelry. So that's down in the links below. But if you go to my Patreon page, you're going to get discounts on so many things, including my predictions for 2024. Every year in December, I have my predictions. This will be coming up very soon. You will see it on my website. You can purchase it. You can get discounts on it with Patreon. So go to galacticcenter.org and sign up for my predictions. It's going to be the early part of December. You won't want to miss it. I take hours to explain each and every month and what we can expect to happen in this coming very exciting year of 2024. So go to galacticcenter.org. And if you want to study with me, we start semester 1 in January, and that's at universityofvedicastrology.com. Now let me start talking about what we have in store for us for this glorious month of December 2023, closing out this incredibly intense year that we have had to deal with. Now, what's going to be happening is, what I can say is the worst is almost over. We still have one more month to go, and there's some pretty intense things that I want to discuss. and why they're intense astrologically. I'm here to fill you in on all the astrological details. The first thing that I want to talk about is that we have so many planets in the sign of Scorpio. We're going to have the new moon, which happens December 12th, is going to happen at 26 degrees of Scorpio. Now, this is going towards the tail end of the Scorpion, which has been referenced in so many astrological texts as one of the most vile areas of the zodiac. The last degrees of Scorpio are what we call in the tail of the Scorpion. And the Scorpion has a poisonous stinger, and that's what will definitely be a part of what's happening with this new moon that we're looking forward to on December 12th. But I assure you, once Mars has finished being in the sign of Scorpio and the early degrees of Sagittarius, which means, by the way, when planets are in the last part of a water sign, first early degrees of a fire sign, they're what? Gandanta, which means out of control. So it's the last few degrees of water and the first few degrees of fire. And that's basically about where this new moon is going to hit at 26, almost 27 degrees of Scorpio. But we have Mars transiting in the tail end of the Scorpion. And with this new moon, it is very close to Mars. Mars, let me remind everyone, is the planet of war, destruction, of energy, powerful energy. It rules weapons and anger and hostility. Yes, it can deal with courage and fighting, but it is a planet of war, let me remind everyone. And Mars is very close to this new moon, but most of all, more than anything, the last part of Scorpio is actually in the nakshatra called Jyesta. And Jyesta is said to be one of the more difficult nakshatras. It has some incredible values about it. It deals with mysticism and deep, profound spirituality. But it has a dark side, and it is said to deal with jealousy and revenge. Yes, revenge. So that's what bothers me, that Mars and the new moon are going to be in Scorpio in the nakshatra called Jyesta that deals with revenge and the sting of the Scorpion. So after Mars does clear the air, and this will be really, I can say, after this month of December, the sky is going to be so much more peaceful. The planet will be in a much better place. So we just have a little bit more to go. And a lot is about to transpire. Let me talk a little bit about this being in the last degrees of the Scorpion, because it deals with jealousy, revenge, and we're dealing with Mars. And Mars is all about this. By the way, Mars is going to cross over in the month of December the fixed star Antares, which is in Scorpio, in the heart of the Scorpion. That is the star of war. So Mars being so strong in Scorpio will bring up a lot of anger, a lot of hostility. And you know it's been brewing. It's been happening for many months here. And now is the finale. That's what I'll have to say. But there is the poisonous sting of the Scorpion. What am I talking about? It deals with poisons. And many times when we have a lot of planets dealing in this area of the zodiac, you're going to find issues and events that deal with poison. Maybe there's places where the air is poison, the water is poison. So be aware of this for the month of December. On top of that, this could actually even be relative to a powerful leader, someone in power, an important person that could be poisoned. So when this energy rears its ugly head, we're going to see instances surrounding poisons, deadly things like this. Now, we also have a full moon, which will be December 26th, at 10 degrees of Gemini. Yes, I am a Vedic sidereal astrologer. I use the sidereal system. It's different than Western astrology. But let me remind everyone, it is the true placements of the planets and is very accurate in making predictions. So this full moon being 10 degrees of Gemini will be in the nakshatra called Ardra. Ardra's symbol is a teardrop. This is important. So what's happening with Mars, what's happening in these events, the full moon brings to light some sadness, very difficult times that we have been living through on this planet. But one big variable that's changed this month that I want to remind everyone of that is so very important is the fact that Rahu and Ketu have shifted signs. I use the true node. Some people may use the mean node, and they're different. The true node is where Rahu and Ketu actually are. And they have changed signs. November 28th is the day that they change out of Aries and Libra. And then Rahu will back up. Remember, the nodes travel backwards into Pisces. And Ketu will go into Virgo. So we have the nodes that are shifting and have shifted by the month of December. When this happens, everyone can feel it. It is a big event. Now, Rahu and Ketu stay in a sign for 18 months. So they've shifted November 28th, and they will stay, Rahu in Pisces, Ketu in Virgo, till May 29th of 2025, exactly 18 months, a year and a half. And this will create a big difference, not only globally, but for everyone individually. You will feel the difference. And if you follow my predictions for each sign, which I do an individual video just for that, I'm going to tell you exactly how it's going to affect you according to your ascendant or your moon sign. And so therefore, where Rahu and Ketu shift in your own individual chart is going to be where the big changes, huge big changes are going to be happening in your life in the next year and a half. But a very simple way for you to get an understanding of what this will mean for you individually will be to go back to the last time that Rahu was in Pisces and Ketu was in Virgo. And Rahu and Ketu take 18 and a half years to go through all 12 signs of the zodiac. So essentially what we're doing is we're going back 18 and a half years to better understand what your life was like back then. That's what it's going to be similar to this again. So what are we talking about? February of 2005 through November of 2006. Think back. What significant events happened in your life during that time? It will be very similar this time. Maybe not exactly the same, but this is going to, the nodes were in particular houses then for you, and that's what activates what area of life will be important, where the changes are going to be most noticed and most evident for you. And as I said, the month of December, you're going to feel this difference right away. It always has a major effect. Now, currently, Rahu is still Gandanta because as Rahu shifted into Pisces, it is now at 29 degrees of Pisces, and it will be Gandanta still for the last 3 degrees while Rahu is in Pisces, 29, 28, 27 degrees of Pisces. This will cover the month of December, because by January, Rahu will no longer be Gandanta. And January is where I say we're going to experience much more peace, much more peace. So be aware that this Gandanta, when Rahu has been in Pisces before, it deals with floods and water. What is Pisces but the sun, a water sign? Intensity, Gandanta. The last time that Rahu was in Pisces, let me remind everyone, was, if you go back to August of 2005, that is when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. So we're looking at some extremes in weather. Another thing I see with the nodes going into these particular signs are many earthquakes and many volcanic eruptions. This is very much indicative of earth changes, weather, violent storms, intensity. Why? Because Rahu's Gandanta, and it's in the same placements of Pisces that it was in 2005. Now let's talk a little bit about the war that's been raging on in Israel and Palestine. This is the time that I expect it's going to come to a head. And I think this is totally unavoidable. What I'm talking about is Mars being in Scorpio, in the tail of the scorpion, that is, with the new moon, that this is going to depict the worst side, because what is it all about? Retaliation, getting back at people. That's what this energy is about. That's what's going to be so intense. Now, the whole time that we have Jupiter in Aries, it even intensifies Mars all the more, because Aries is ruled by Mars. And then when you deflect or look at the dispositor of Jupiter, which is Mars, it is in Scorpio, which is such an incredibly intense sign for Mars. It makes it stronger. And so let me remind everyone what the planet Mars deals with. Violence, wars, weapons, and fire, for one thing. And it's going to be very, very intense with this. So one thing I do want to talk about in detail, and well, before I get there, I'm going to talk about the atrocities of war and what I think about what is going on. And also I'm going to give you some very pertinent information on what you can think about to change your life and get ready for the new year, because you can make 2024 the best year ever. I'm going to give you some realizations that I have made actually in the past few weeks. So before I go there, though, I want to inform you about some of the other astrological events occurring this month, which is Mercury will turn retrograde December 13th. And it's going to be around 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the sign of truth and justice. And boy, do we need some truth and justice. Yes, this is all coming about. And it will turn direct, which is fascinating to me. Mercury will turn direct January 1st of 2024. And also the day before that, well, on January 31st, December 31st, Jupiter stations and turns direct. So a day apart, practically the same day, we have Mercury turning direct and Jupiter turning direct. And that makes these two planets very powerful at their stationing times. So what you're going to find is things are going to start to move forward. Now, Mercury retrograde from December 13th till January 1st The whole time it's going to be in Sagittarius till up to the very end of this. Then it's going to be 28 degrees of Scorpio. Here we have the Scorpio energy again. Mercury reminds us of the past, brings things back for us to remember. But it is really time for us to move forward after all of the atrocities that we have been going through with these planets coming to their most vile point of Scorpio and revenge, dealing with war. And yes, Mercury retrograde is a time that we go back and we reassess things. Look at how we can change things. And that's what I want you to do during this Mercury retrograde. I want you to go back, reassess some of the things that have occurred during your life during this past year and how you would choose differently, because you're going to have a powerful opportunity to choose differently. This I can assure you. So now that I have covered the most important astrological events, I want to tell you a little bit about what I feel about war and peace and spirituality, because this is what we're here for. This is what we've come here to learn, to realize the truth of who you really and truly are, the power that you have, and what it's all about. So what I want to talk about now is that war is based on so many things, but one of the things that I see that war is based on is, of course, anger and hate, resentment, fear, and retaliation because of this anger. You see, anger is something that you can't just push down and hope that it goes away. Because what happens when you try to do such a thing and resist it, it festers and grows just like a cancer. So anger needs to be addressed. Anger needs to be looked at to see what has caused it, and of course, what can heal it. And everyone going around thinking that they're right, the other person's wrong, this is no way to heal. But I'm going to give you some information that I think will be, and I hope it will be, meaningful and healing for you. Because one of the things that I believe has caused more upset, and whether or not you're a religious person, you've got to admit that more wars have been fought in the name of religion than anything else. So this war in the Middle East, it goes way back. Religion. And religion is something that has been devised. It's the teachings of God. Religion is there to help guide us, to give us a sense of peace, because to be on this planet and know that at some point you're going to die and you don't know where you're going to go, religion gives you peace of mind, that you know that you are indestructible. You will never die. We will live on in spirit. And what is this all about? What are these religions actually teaching us? Are they teaching us to love one another, to be spiritual beings? Well, here's what I think. I'll give you my story. And everyone has their own story based on their upbringing and what they're taught, right? So I just want you to know that it's very important that we don't teach children to hate. That's one thing that I think has occurred through many eons of what's happening in this particular world and this part of the world. And you see, what I have discovered, that I just came back from Japan. As a matter of fact, as I speak right now, yesterday I was on a flight that was nonstop from Tokyo to Dallas. And I wanted to tell you about some of my understandings, what I understood from my vantage point, from my perspective. Everyone gets a different perspective from what? From what you've been taught, how you believe. But let me give you a little information on what I felt like I discovered that I think could help all of us. And the one thing that I wondered, thinking about this war in the Ukraine or the war in Israel, how did the Japanese overcome the bombing of Hiroshima and the other cities in Japan that killed so many innocent people, caused so much suffering? And Japan today is completely renovated all of that. And now it is a prosperous, successful, beautiful country. And I have to say, I've never felt so safe in my life. There's no one there that's going to hurt you, steal from you. That's non-existent there. How does this culture overcome the atrocities of war? Why is it, and maybe some of them do, but this wasn't my experience, how are they able to move on? How is it that they don't teach their children to hate Americans for that? Because let me tell you, I didn't see that there. It was truly an amazing experience. And what I discovered is that I asked, what is it? I actually had a meet and greet in Japan, and there was some amazing people who came that have been following me for years. Yes, whenever I go to another country, I love to do a meet and greet and meet all the people, do a little lecture, tell them about the astrology, and get feedback. I want to know how people do things in different parts of the world. So we had this meet and greet, and another thing about Japan, they bow, they're so respectful, and they smile. They really do. And I will say this, what I walk away from seeing in their country is how incredibly welcoming they were and patient with us, not speaking the language. They're very rule conscious, very orderly, and extremely respectful. And I love their entrepreneurial qualities, and they love Americans because of that. They're wanting to grow and advance, and they certainly have over the years. This is an incredibly prosperous and successful and productive society. I mean, everything was so efficient. We have a lot to learn from them, let me tell you. But one thing that I asked the people that came to my meet and greet, I said, I really want to know, how is it this society has moved on and is so prosperous now? And I don't feel the resentment as an American, which if anyone should be resentful and hateful towards another culture, it should be the Japanese to Americans. But I asked, and they said, well, one girl said, well, we lost the war and we had to move on. And the only way we could see to be prosperous was to move on, to let go, not have the resentment. Because let me tell you, people that stay caught up in resentments, this just goes in personal lives, they never get anywhere because they become victims, and victims are always blaming circumstances in the outside world rather than thinking, how can I move on? Well, I'm not downplaying the suffering at all that the Japanese went through, but it is evident that they were able to move on and learn. It's truly an amazing experience to have had this opportunity to go there, because what I have found is when you stay in resentments, that's what destroys people, societies, and the world. So they were able to move past this. But one important piece to all of this that I feel like I've learned from this culture is that it was explained to me that the Japanese have two religions. And one is called Shinto and the other is Buddhism. Now, they said they don't let them conflict, that sometimes they go to Shinto, especially when a child's born. And when someone dies, they look to Buddhism for their funerals, for what they respect from people. So they use these two, the best points of both religions, and they don't let those religions conflict with each other. And what I loved about the Japanese, they could care less what religion you are. Unlike most religious people, that they always want to change everyone to be their religion. And I think sometimes that is so awful that people want to think that they are the only chosen ones under God because of their religious belief. Because let me tell you a little something. I grew up going to Catholic school. And I remember the nuns telling me that those that are not Christian and didn't take Jesus as their Savior were going to burn in hell forever. Why would you tell a young child something as horrific as that? And that you're born with sin and you're bad. I can't believe that. I asked the nuns, I remember worrying about a little girl that I used to love to play with after school because she was Jewish. And I thought, is she going to go to hell forever? And the nun said yes. And then I said, well, what about all the people in China, in India, or Japan that never heard of Jesus? They said, oh, don't worry, that's why we send our missionaries there, so we can save them. You know, that never sat well with me. That, and the way they depict God as a punishing, hateful, to put children in hell forever. Come on. That is not my idea of God. Whatever you want to call it. The divine force. It is unconditional, loving, and healing. That is the God that I follow and I believe in. Because I'm not going to make God into a revengeful, full of hate if you don't believe a certain way. So going back to my Japanese experience, let me tell you what Shinto is all about from what I understood or what was explained to me. And they said it is basically the law of nature. And I thought, the law of nature, that's everything. Because you can never get away with defining or not being under the laws of nature. Nature, we're going to have storms, we're going to have rain, we're going to have combustion, we're going to have lightning. These are all part of nature. We're going to have earthquakes. This is nature. Nature is cause and effect. That's science. And it's spirituality, because spirituality is the truth. And one time someone asked me in a lecture, what do you define the difference between religion and spirituality? And I'll never forget what just came out of my mouth. I believe religion is searching for God outside of ourselves, where spirituality is searching for God within ourselves, because we are connected to that divine force. We are one with it. We've got to see it as this loving, healing omnipresence that is here to help us, not hurt us. So I asked more about the Shinto, and it's all about the laws of nature. And that is exactly how I believe. I'll never forget another time I was asked to speak at a big conference that was called Spirituality and Science. And at the end of the conference, we all came to the conclusion that spirituality and science were one in the name of them both referring back to nature. Nature is the law we cannot escape, ever. And that is the law of this planet. And so let me tell you, this law of Shinto, I believe, is actually how the Japanese were able to overcome the horrific events that enabled their society to move on, be prosperous, respectful, and loving. That was what I experienced in Japan. And I'll tell you, we went to this incredibly beautiful park, and it was right outside of Hiroshima. And this park, we went to go see the Shinto shrine, the Torii Gate, which is the floating gate in the water. And if you sign up for my newsletter or my magazine, I'm going to have my entire story written out with all the photos of where I was and what I experienced. In this park, they actually have domesticated deers. Talk about being one with nature. The deers all come up, you pet them. It's beautiful. But the Torii Gate is like the gateway into nature of this world and learning how to work with the laws of nature, which is truly the right thing. We can't avoid that. So thinking about this, let me go on a little bit more about the laws of nature and what I believe, because the law of nature is actually the law of cause and effect. And I wanted to read a couple of quotes that I think is going to totally resonate with you as well, from some of the most amazing minds that have lived on planet Earth. And the first one I want to read to you is, everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not a philosophy. This is physics. Albert Einstein. That's a quote. And another quote from a brilliant mind. Think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla. So what they're talking about is nature. It's the law of cause and effect. It's the law of karma. What you put out is you get back. What energy, in physics, they say what energy is projected outwardly will be met with equal force. It's really not that difficult to understand how to live our lives within the laws of nature. And I love that Nikola Tesla and Einstein talk about frequency and energy, because this is what I always teach about the law of attraction. But lately I've been more compelled to call it the law of frequency, because whatever frequency you're putting out, if you're loving, if you're caring, if you're respectful, trustworthy, that's the energy that you receive back. But if you're putting out the energy, the frequency of hate, disrespect, untrustful, unloving. That is what you're going to get back. The people and circumstances that your frequency puts out, a frequency will be met of equal force to you. This is how it works. And if you don't like the way your life is right now, you can change it by changing your frequency. And that starts with your thinking. If you shift your thinking mind from hate to love, you're going to change your life. And I hope the whole world can do so, because then we wouldn't have all of these difficult frequencies. But whatever you put out, remember, this is what you personally are going to receive. Now, throughout our life, we have been taught so many negative concepts, particularly in the world of religion. We can change that too, because religion is a belief. And what is a belief? It are thoughts that come from intensity of emotion or strong feelings. So thoughts with strong feelings become beliefs. And we can change our beliefs and not be under the spell of these doctrines that destroy the world. Come to a place of the law of nature, cause and effect, Shinto. And I believe that you can change your life, have a much better year. It's going to be miraculous, because really, when you truly understand what we've been doing to our planet, and yes, people that condemn others because of their beliefs, and I see it all the time in the write-ups in my YouTubes, they're not coming from a place of love. And then they say, I'm so negative. Well, I'm trying to inform you of what is going on in the world so that you can change your life. Because every person that changes and puts out that vibration of frequency, of love, healing, respect, gratitude, that is what you're going to get back. And you have a vibrational effect on the frequency of the planet, so that more people will change and more people will grow spiritually. More people will connect, and there will not be as much suffering that has been taking place on this planet. So I think if you've listened all the way through to the end of my dissertation here, you'll understand what I feel about where the place the world is in, and the beautiful and valuable lesson that I see from Japan, how they were able to overcome the atrocities of hate with war and become the society that they are. Beautiful people of Japan. I want to give my heartfelt gratitude for the people I met while I was there, the children that I met while I was there. They were so happy. They were so joyful. They were not taught to hate Americans. Every site we went to, we saw children on field trips, and they were trying to practice some of their English words and laughing and smiling, so well behaved. Our culture teaches children to hate, obviously, or it wouldn't be the way it is, and throughout the places where there is war. And war needs to stop. You, as an individual, have the ability to change yourself, and this is how you can change the world. So I hope you've gained some insight. I know I have from Japan, and I'm eternally grateful for the lesson that I learned going to this beautiful, magnificent country. So I hope that someday you'll have the opportunity to experience some of the joys I've felt from this culture. So with that, I think I'll close. So one thing I want to add is, if this has inspired you in some way to come together and learn more, go to my Patreon page and become a part of our class Shooting Stars. Because in Shooting Stars, this is where we practice the principles of the law of nature, cause and effect, law of attraction, law of frequency. We come together personally in live classes, and I would love to have you part of it. So check out my Patreon page. And also, if this has inspired you to learn astrology, which is part of the way I live my life, the energies and the give and flow of the energies, then I am starting a new class, first semester in January. Pay attention to that. And don't forget to be part of my world predictions, which is going to be in the early part of December. And it will be recorded, but you can purchase it. All of that, you can find the dates, the time, the information on my website, galacticcenter.org. Thank you.